This lesson is about cultural differences. Culture is a difficult topic. We will give it more attention in a dedicated section in this course. But there are a few aspects that I would like to highlight now. First of all, culture is something about people. But don't forget, it is always about individuals. You cannot say that because an individual person comes from a certain country that he or she has a specific culture. Each person is, after all, unique. They have their own characteristics. Of course, if you look at the whole nation and look to all people there are some trends possible. There is a kind of generic culture. But beware to generalize this. It is good to understand cultural background, but please look to the individual and don't judge on cultural assumptions. One of the works that I would like to point out specifically, and that might be really useful, is the work of Geert Hofstede. Geert Hofstede did research, originally in IBM, where he looked at all the differences between countries. And he found 4 dimensions, which later have been expanded to the current 6 dimensions. Those are 6 dimensions on which you can look to culture. And they have measured them. There is data available on Geert Hofstede's website regarding the cultural differences between the countries, in a measurable way. Now I would like to go through these 6 dimensions. The first dimension is the Power Distance Index. The Power Distance Index deals with how do people deal with a hierarchy. So, to which extent do they act exactly on what the boss tells them? To which extent do people question orders and ask for the why when the boss tells what to do? Cultures with a high Power Distance Index do have a tendency to simply follow orders. And cultures with a low distance index have a tendency to ask for the why, and even not simply doing something because the boss gives an order. The second dimension is the Individualism Index. Individualism deals with what's your purpose in life. Do you look at yourself, maybe your close family, your spouse, your children, or do you have a more collective mindset? Do you look to a broader sense than just the people around you? Do you consider the complete community? So cultures with a high individualism index tend to look merely to themselves, and maybe their close relatives and friends, while cultures with a low individualism index look more to complete groups and the social system in their community. They consider a larger group of people and relations in their concerns and decisions. The third dimension is the Masculinity Index. This has nothing to do with gender, don't worry. The Masculinity Index says something about, do you like to engage in conflict or do you look for joint agreements? Cultures with higher preferences for conflict and battle are indicated as high in the Masculinity Index. Cultures that go more for harmony and that search for compromises and joint decision making, those have a low Masculinity Index. Cultures with a low Masculinity Index like to look to joint solutions. Cultures that are high on the Masculinity Index tend to have more conflict-oriented approaches. There the strongest person decides. The fourth dimension is the Uncertainty Avoidance Index. It addresses how people deal with uncertainty. Are they not taking risk at all? Do they search for much certainty? That means that they have a high Uncertainty Avoidance Index. They like to avoid uncertainty. But are they risk-taking? Do they enjoy searching for solutions by walking new paths that may fail? Then they have a low Uncertainty Avoidance Index. So this index identifies to which extent do people are okay with failing. To which extent are they okay with taking risk. That's the fourth dimension. Let's look at the fifth dimension, which is the Long-Term Orientation Index. Long-term orientation is a cultural dimension that focuses on, do you focus on yourself and the time you live in? Or do you think in terms of generations? Especially in Asia, you see countries being high on the long-term orientations. They don't look too much to themselves now, but they are more thinking on the long term, from generation to generation. They are thinking in decades, in hundreds of years. While cultures that are low on the long-term orientation index don't mainly look beyond the year, maybe the coming years, but not much further. They don't really include what happens on the long run. Finally, the sixth dimension. This is the Indulgence Index. Indulgence talks about to which extent it is okay in a culture to enjoy oneself. Enjoy life, enjoy spending money, and live the life people like to live. A culture where it's okay to indulge in the pleasures of living, that culture is high on the indulgence index. But cultures where the main standard of living is sober, saving money, don't do crazy things, then such a culture appears low on the indulgence index. This is one way to deal with culture. I think for global software engineering it can help you to classify cultures. It can help to predict where to put additional attention and to forecast where problems in collaboration might arise. However, and summarizing, it remains important to think about the individuals. Please don't think that individual people have a generic culture. Yes, you can look at a country and study its specific culture. Yes, it is good to have an eye on it. You can even train yourself in the culture of the people you work with. You will learn to get an appreciation for it. But still, don't forget to look at the individual, because that's the person who's doing the work. And the culture in which they grew up is just one thing that has helped this individual person to become who they are.